to record now. Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at Law Tricks by John Day. It is otherwise known as Who Would Have Thought It, which I actually think is probably a better title. I think it's rather
I like it.
Who'd Have Thought It. I might bring that up more often than not as we do this, because it's just clearly a better title. It's originally performed by the children of the Queen's Revels. That is presumably at Blackfriars around about 1604 5-ish. Yes, we're sort of getting back on track with our early Jacobean stuff. There is a new king, and it probably doesn't make the blindest bit of difference to anyone in their day-to-day lives. Reading today, we have a wonderful selection of readers for a play that doesn't have a vast cast. I mean, there might be some of the odd clashes. We don't have a vast room, but the actual number of primary interlocutors is relatively small. So reading Horatio, Adam, and Winifred is...
Francis Cox, actor and voice artist living in Amsterdam.
Reading Lurdo, as well as a page in Act 2, is...
Aliki, Chapple, actor and translator, currently in Athens.
Reading Angelo and Emilia is...
Sarah Blake, actor, writer, director, based in Germany.
Reading Ferneze and Julio is...
Hi, I'm Arrogant. I happen to be wearing a red shirt. I hope none of these characters die.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it's not Star Trek, is it? So, you know. Reading page in Act 1, Joculo and Countess is...
A civilian in Suffolk.
And reading Polymetes is...
Hi, I'm Lynn. I am coming to you from the northwestern United States.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and generally keeping us moving forward. And without further ado, there is no prologue. Though if you find a copy of this online, there is a reasonably entertaining introduction of the book to the reader, a nice bit of sales pitch. But we're not reading that now because it's not dramatic. We're just going to start off with Act 1, Scene 1. And we have the entrance of Count Horatio Solus.
Divine invention. Oh, how I could hug and like an amorous lover court thy beauty that crowns me king of pleasures. Were my brain forged out of vulgar metal without fire and sprightly motion, my big swollen hopes had been stillborn. But when dejected minds outslept the golden pleasures of the night, my serious meditations have outwatched the glorious tapers that attend the moon, and turned my thoughts into 1,000 shapes, moulded the fashion of 10,000 plots, liked and disliked so many that my brain, the mother of invention, grew barren, almost past bearing, till my labouring thoughts conceived a yet more strange and quaint idea, gave it proportion, and I brought it forth. And that blessed infant of invention beyond all hope hath my contentment won. And that's love's heaven. I love a face more fair than Cynthia's hue, that seems above compare. But hell, a husband with a jealous eye ushers her steps, O wedded slavery. This tender rose, whom artless marriage hath grafted on a nettle, testy age, have I ungrafted, made himself untie the knot of wedlock. Thanks, sweet industry.
Enter Count Lurdo, meditating.
And here comes that which most heaps my fame, his wit well spoken of.
This wit's a sprightly thing.
For such as have it.
If not alone, doth bring public applause, but knowledge in the law teacheth to speak in distance.
How the door scowls o'er his rusty phrases. Honoured Count, how grows your plot?
My thriving fortunes mount above suppose, even to my heart's content. We are divorced.
My hopes are prevalent.
You know the cause on't. 2 sufficient men swore her a harlot, and the partial bench, inspired by my good angels, Angels' wings sweep a clear passage to the feet of kings, sealed our divorce.
But doth her brother swallow this gross abuse?
Abuse? Away, they know me rich, Horatio, chink, chink. While this holds out, my cause shall never sink.
And enter Duke Ferneze and Angelo.
See where it comes. His sad complexion wears grief's mourning livery. He is clothed in tears.
Whence springs this sorrow?
For my sister's shame. My sister, oh, my sister, whose repute hung like a jewel on her sex's forehead.
And what of her?
She was pure as the diamond, clear as crystal glass. But now, oh, her credit, oh, hell, her credit is more foul than speckled scandal or black murders foul.
I cannot think it.
I note too true. She was my wife, and by her means my head was fairly tubbed. And you will buy a lanthorn, bespeak my scones, 'tis ready, horned and all.
Not yet, but I'll take order that it shall.
And are you parted?
What a question is that? Shall I wear cracked rings, diamonds with a flaw? I'll carry coals, and you will know horns. I know the law.
Is this your grief?
This is enough to make patience turn ruffian. That was the pattern to whose proportion all our courtly dames cut out their actions. She to fall a sign.
More will fall shortly.
Her shame
Grows here. Whoever broached the wine, the butt stands here. My forehead bears the sign.
It merits none. The shame's not yours, nor his. That foot's even made that never treads amiss. Beauty came first from heaven. Prometheus stole it to make proud women beauteous. Now stolen goods thrive not. Women stole from men. Then blame not them to seek their own again. Kings have for this been felons, and 'tis proved he never was divine that never loved.
I find no law for this.
Custom you prove, and what's more, ancient than to pilfer love?
Will it well applied?
Then bury grief. If this be felonly, myself's a thief.
No nimble wit, just of the length of mine. But come, my liege, forget it. So will I. Our infant griefs must be old men and die.
not whilst her fault survives. What news with thee?
Enter Horatio's page.
I bring your honour comfortable news. Your son's returned from Pisa.
I comes ill, and yet I hope his blessed arrival will kill this monster grief.
He is a toward prince.
Toward enough, and yet most strangely weaned and wedded from world's society.
A parlous youth, sharp and satirical, would but to spend some study in the law, would prove a passing subtle barrister.
Has a quick wit.
And speaks Latin, too. Truly, and so few lawyers used to do.
I'm going to pause us here mid-scene because we're getting characters thrown at us, and an awful lot of stuff that's being discussed about people who aren't on stage, and already quite a complicated series of interactions as to who, because it's like so Lurd, is it Lurdo's wife is the Duke's sister?
Yeah.
That? Am I getting that relation? They're all talking about the same person here, aren't they? Who, an offstage character we haven't met, who hasn't been given a name yet in the text as performed. Don't think we've had a name. So
No.
I'm quite keen on people using names at the beginning of a play, and this play doesn't seem to do that for pretty much anyone. I mean, it has the odd title been thrown about, but honoured count. But has anyone actually used a name at all? Yet.
I think I was called by name.
Ah, excellent. Good. Because I mean, I sort of. It was like this isn't actually very complicated, but for some reason it feels more complicated than it is. I was getting throughout this whole opening of the scene, and I'm sure in performance it's probably fine because you see the people on stage and they're all talking about the same person off stage, apart from just now when we're about to be introduced to another character. But yeah, I felt that a bit slippery as to what was going on there. Thoughts from the room about this? Because there's some really odd interactions. I'll go to Aliki, then Sarah.
Yeah, I find it very strange that I'm being that horrible about the Duke's sister, if that's who she is, and making jokes about cuckoldry at him if I've basically bribed people to pretend that she's been cuckolding me. Or Lurdo, rather.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that, the Duke comes in quite cross about his sister and is automatically believing that she's in the wrong, because all these men are on stage automatically deciding that there's this woman who is off stage and who has as of yet not been given a name is in the wrong. Though the play does not seem to necessarily be a ginner yet. That's more the characters on stage who are not necessarily very nice. Sarah.
Indeed. Yeah. And I was going to, to tie in with this, but I was going to say as well, I'm not sure who Horatio is. He's like this random dude who he's obviously noble because he's got a page, whatever, and he's talking to but is he related to any of them? I don't know. Like, but the thing that struck me was that speech he had where he was talking about like how, Prometheus stole beauty from heaven, and so then women stole it from men, and so it's fine to steal it back. And I'm like, okay, is that what I think it is? Is that basically, code, like sort of flowery code for kind of, it's fine, to seduce and rape women because, they stole beauty from us, and so we yearn to get it back, and so it's within our natures. I'm not quite sure if I interpreted that right or not, but I'm like, well, that's quite an introduction to this character.
It might be more that it's fair game to try and take somebody else's wife. You could be right. I'm not certain because I genuinely don't really know what the hell Horatio is doing. It's not like he says, "Hi, I'm a character." He just says, "Hi, I'm going to say some stuff."
Yeah, it's like, who the hell are you? I have no idea.
It's like, it's like, yeah, right. I've no idea who he is. Nobody's told us. I don't think anyone really knows he's a count. No. The other one's a count. He said he's a count. Of course, you can always take the odd letter out of that. Eric, then Aliki.
Also he does say, "What's more ancient than to pilfer love?" So it's probably
yes,
it's probably part of his character.
pilfering of love is very dodgy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say that these characters remind me a bit of like sort of the humorous plays, which were very popular, probably like, I don't know when they were popular, but where you have like one character sort of who's a melancholy humor, like Ferneze is very melancholy and grief and all that stuff. And the other two are just sort of like trying to sort of, they're not tricky, but they're sort of like low-key, but a bad version of bad imitation of like they're trying to sort of trick someone and that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Yes, and I think that humans is a reasonable shout. It's not been that long since humans were the rage, 5 years or so before this play, and it doesn't mean to say it's still not a thing rumbling in the background. Leaky.
So I take it back. I've scrolled back through, and Lurdo calls Horatio by name, and that's the only name that's been used.
Right. So we know who Horatio is. Good. That's lovely. Of course, that gives us so much context about who these people are. I want a prologue. Right. Don't say that often, Francis.
Yeah. Horatio, in that first speech, he says he's in love with somebody. And I'm sort of assuming it's this unnamed woman who's been accused of adultery. And this is, that's what I'm going with at the moment.
So, yes, it seems to be that there's this weird sort of thing of the sister who's married who the other guy wants, and it's like there's some really strange pass the parcel stuff going on here that is deeply, deeply worrying. But hopefully the play is using it as a moral lesson about what not to do in life. We shall see. Eric, and then we'll move on.
Yes, do not do that. Don't try that at home or anywhere. I was gonna say that it's there's also that line about, well, they know me rich, Horatio, chink chink, and so on, and like that sort of setup reminded me a lot of I think it was Fair Maid of the West, where one of the characters was trying to bribe like the captain had married someone, and he was trying to bribe someone else to sleep with him. Possibly, I don't know. It might be some other play, but it was a lot of fun back in that play, but it doesn't work quite so well in this play.
Okay, well, again, the slight absence of context here is making this difficult to fully judge. We shall see as we go forward. So we've had a reference to Ferneze's son, I think, who enters here. Enter Prince Polymetes with a book.
Oh, health to this honored presence. Passing good.
Welcome, sweet prince.
Thanks. Oh, surpassing good. But, honored father, see how he proceeds. Learning was first made pilot to the world, and in the chair of contemplation, many degrees above the turning clouds, held in his hand, in this 9-leafed marble book, drawn full of silver lines and golden stars.
But son...
But father, it was learning's place, till empty outsides, shadow daubed with gold, plucked him down headlong, then aloft his wits, and ever since lives zany to the world, true pageant poet, toiler to the press, makes himself cheap, detested, hissed, and stale, to every bubble and dull groom who, for his outsides gaudy, will presume to make poor wit a hackney to his pride, and with blunt rolled jests spur gall his sides till his soul bleed. Oh, I am more than mad to see mere shadows, censure and control, the substance, worthier both in sense and soul.
By Polymetes, though the robe of learning sit comely on a prince, yet wean thy thoughts from this strict contemplation, and embrace public assemblies, nightly exercise.
How's that? To swear and give the sudden stab? Sell lands to purchase fashions? Oh, 'tis base. Bought gentry should true-born worth disgrace.
Practice to hunt.
No, some that use that sport give it o'er, being scarce one hair the better for it.
Then practice revels.
Revels, sprightly play, yet every year some revel all away.
All these are trivial. Prince, be a lawyer.
Of all the land monsters, some that bear that name might well be spared, whose vulture avarice devours men living. They of all the rest deal most with angels, and yet prove least blessed.
Wrong not the law.
I cannot, 'tis divine, and I'll compare it to a golden chain that links the body of the Commonwealth into firm and formal union. It holds the sword with an impartial hand, curbs the reins of an unruly land. 'Tis twined to justice, and with holy zeal rightly determines the poor man's appeal, and those that are law's true administers are fathers to the wrong, heaven's justicers.
Or God, 'tis true, right properties of the law.
But under favor and with due respect of that unvalued pearl and the professors, yourself and such lack-Latin advocates infect the heart and do their best to change the true intent of sanctimonious law, turn churchyards champions, and make the ground grown rank with grandsire's flesh, bear corn to feed the sun.
Will this be suffered? But Polymetes, in thy stay at Pisa, when heardst thou of thy sister?
Much too late. The reason, with your patience, I'll relate. Beauteous Emilia, whom I never saw but in the rhetoric of discursive tongues, in Sandla Monta, neighbor to Sardinia, where silver Arno in her crystal bosom courts the fresh banks with many an amorous kiss. My sister, as the country custom claimed, with all the choicest virgins of the land, met at the temple, half a league remote from the resort of people, and was decked with all the relics and the choicest gems Marcellus Pisa or Lignorn could yield.
What followed this rich preparation?
Whilst they securely tend their orisons, 3 armed galleys of faithless Turks at disadvantage set their men on shore, entered the temple, and profaned their shrines. On the altar sacrificed the priest, disrayed the temple of the golden robes, murdered the matrons, ravished the maids, and dragged them by the disheveled hair, and dragging them by their disheveled hair, did with their ravished bodies fill their boats. Among the rest, Emilia, whom report called by no name but only beautiful, was ravished, slain, or taken prisoner.
Oh, Polymetes, thy discourse confounds. Thou healest old hurts, yet givest deeper wounds, but words are air. See our armed galleys manned, and in them place as many of our knights as loved Emilia and their sovereign's health, all unto Pisa, and till our return, because our widowed dukedom shall not mourn, be thou her minion and possess her chair. Fill that with honor, 'twill fill thee with care. Urge no denials, Genoese adieu. We leave old griefs and go in search of new.
Exeunt remains Lurdo and Horatio from the A-plot.
Better and better. Now my hopes are fit. The Duke thus gone, what tongue so bold dare say I wronged my wife?
That dares Horatio.
Thou art myself. We both have but one bosom, one tongue, one soul, 2 bodies, and 1 heart.
I know it, my lord.
'Tis true, but let that pass. We 2 are one.
I know your honour's wife.
And I know thee, for no small fool, 'twas simple policy, and not without some counsel of the law, that notwithstanding my wife's near alliance unto the Duke, I purchased a divorce.
What was the cause?
I tell thee the most wrong was this: my avarice thought she lived too long. I know one man hath coffined up 6 wives since he was mine, and by the poorest pursed a brace of £1,000, still good in law. Men must be rich. By thrift our treasures rise. Give me the man's knave. Rich, take your poor wife. Close cocksure, I'll feed me fat with sport. Gull all, fool all. Why, I have law tricks for't.
Exit Lurdo.
How Justice Slender glories in the plot which, to deceive him, my full brain begot. But to his wife, true virtue though disgraced, she's now half wooed because she's thought unchaste. Her sex's credit or discredit thrives in the outward shape and fashion of their lives, and be a woman's virtues ne'er so strong, her honours weighed upon discourse's tongue. Be her fame sullied, were her thoughts as bright as innocence, the world would count her light. For though 'mongst women most are beauteous, they that please time are counted virtuous. And in this hope I'll to the Countess go. She's counted light, love grant I find her so.
And exit Horatio. End the first scene. Who'd have thought it? I mean, Polymetes comes in. I'm deep in study. Daddy says you should get out more, get some vitamin D. He says, no, I love the law. Such a shame about all the lawyers ruining the law. The law would be great if it wasn't for lawyers. And he goes off on like this for ages. And then, oh, how's your sister doing? Oh, she's been kidnapped. What?
Or maybe raped, or maybe murdered, or maybe some combination of
It's like burying the lead here. I mean, it's like... what?
so weird.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of...
And I got rid of my wife because she was costing me too much.
Yeah. I sort of got that vibes from the beginning of that first interchange when he's talking about you spent money, good angels, to get rid of, sort out the divorce, and sort of going, yeah, this is a guy doing stuff for money purposes, not a great guy. Yeah, Sarah.
I'm kind of loving this scene because, plays quite often, not always, but quite often start off with a bunch of dudes standing around talking about what's going on at court to set the scene for the audience. That is something we've encountered many times before. But this is just bonkers because, like, both of these plots that they're chatting about, it's like, oh, they just standing around having a chat. Oh yeah, my sister's maybe been murdered, and all the priests were murdered, and all her ladies were like raped, and maybe she's been raped, maybe she's just been kidnapped. I don't really know, but hey, let's talk some more about the law. And then there's this other dude, like, and so then they go off, and it's like, yeah, I just, it's just as well the Duke's gone because divorced his sister because she was living too long, and it's like all the kind of this is the kind of gossipy framework where you get the context for the plot. It's just mental. It's just like they're all standing. I can imagine you could do this on stage in a really good way. Everyone's just like casually chatting, and they just keep landing these bombshells and making the audience go, "Wait, what was that?" It's kind of brilliant.
And it's the way that Polymetes sort of just, when he's narrating his tale, does this great long thing of, oh, and they all went up to the temple, and it's like he's written a sonnet about it or something, and then it's just and then the Ferneze, he has to ask what follows that this rich preparation is just going, oh, some terrible stuff happened then. It's just like Francis.
Yeah, we've got two such disparate plot lines here. You've got Emilia ravished and carried off in foreign parts, and then you've got this domestic intrigue at home, and I'm kind of like, where's this going? Do you know what I mean? It's at one point when they were talking about Emilia being, ravished, I thought, oh, they're going to go off and, they're all going to go, grab their swords and go off and rescue her, in a very valiant manner. But then suddenly we came back to this domestic thing about the Countess. So I'm a bit at sea here.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting in several fronts because, in a sense, it is all a bit random, but they are all related to each other, and they're either by marriage or by blood. And so they're all integrated, but also both plot lines are about this, at the moment, this absent female figure for whom stuff is happening. So it's a really interesting question about what this play is trying to do with this setup. And, the question of how much of this is satire as well. It's a boys' company play, so the odds on that's their angle. I'm sort of bamboozled, but I'm also sort of really going with the play so far now. It's sort of like they've locked me in a bit. I'm worried about it, but I'm also sort of liking it. Eric, then Lynn, then we'll move on.
Yeah, this feels a bit like sort of, I don't know, just like making fun of plays where it's like, oh yes, we will go to save her, and that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, no one else actually cares about Emilia and so on. It's just Ferneze being who he is, who is kind of actually cares about her and is overly dramatic, and it's like, yes, we must act immediately.
Yes, someone had better start acting, otherwise, no. Lynn. Muted at present.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if it was meant to be satire then, but it's satire now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a boys. Oh, sorry, Lynn, did you have more? Or whether you?
Nah, just like, I don't know if it was, how satirical it was meant to be. The time further reading may tell, but I don't see any other way to play it if you were going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a boys' company play. Nobody's sung anything yet, so there's still time. We're still in the middle of the Act 1. Very briefly, Anne.
Yeah, and if it's a boys' company, we haven't any smut yet either.
Well, there's some borderline things, and there are some in jokes flying around. So it's still within their meta, and there's still the act isn't over yet, so there's still a scene to go. And there might be a song at the end. Who knows? Anyway, we're going to dive now into Act 1, Scene 2, and we're going to meet Emilia. We've heard all about Emilia. Emilia is not dead, I think we can safely say. Enter Emilia and Joculo.
Joculo.
Joculo, who's Alan?
I beg your pardon. Welcome to Genoa, madam, and to make shortcut of our long travel, please tell me, how do you feel yourself since you came ashore?
Feel myself? Why, with my hands. What an idle question's that.
Then pray you be better occupied in your answer. But, madam, do you remember what a multitude of fishes we saw at sea? I do wonder how they can all live by one another.
Why, fool, as men do on the land. The great ones eat up the little ones. But Joculo, I am great, passing great, and ready to lie down.
Do, madam, and I'll stand by and do my good will to deliver you.
Man's death, of what?
Why, of your maidenhead, madam, and if you please, or rather of the huge birth of knavery you're in travail of.
And in sooth, Joculo, at this time I stand in some need of a witty midwife. But may I trust thee?
Above the girdle stead and below the knee, madam, without any danger. Why, madam, you know at our first meeting in the Turk's galleys, where we were both prisoners, and in a manner strangers, I rested faithful. When we counterfeited ourselves lunatic to escape their fury, I proved not false. When we were cast naked ashore, I stood firm to you, and never since left your company. Now, having had these trials of me abroad, never mistrust my secrecy at home.
I will credit thee. And now receive this embryon of knavery briefly as I deliver it. I understand, since our private arrival here at Genoa, that the Duke, my father, hearing of my surprisal from Monte Sancta, attended with 100 knights, is gone to seek a needle in a bottle of hay.
Or rather to catch a quick eel by the
teeth, as I have done you, sir.
No, and you break jests on my teeth once. I've done with you.
If the breaking of the jest kept your teeth whole, 'twas well broken. But to the purpose. As well to try what metal our Genoese wits are made of, as also to put my brother's humour to the test, I intend to dance a pretty change with my name, for by nothing else I am sure they can know me, being in my infancy carried to my aunts at Pisa. Then, instead of Emilia, call me Tristella.
Agreed, but what man in the mist is this?
I know not. Yet let's walk and take occasion to confer with them.
Enter Polymetes reading, surprise, surprise, and Julio taking tobacco.
Yet keep without eye shotters so long as you can.
Oh, most divine.
Tobacco, the best in Europe. Cost me 10 crowns an ounce by this vapor.
Art not ashamed?
Of your foppish humour? Yes, by this element, villainously ashamed. Pox on it, leave it. You are a scholar, go but to antiquity. Read the chronicles, you may find some of your ancestors chronicled for winning a wench's favour, for losing their armour, but few for wit and scholarship. Soldiers and scholars could never set their horses together, especially in this kicking age. But who comes here? One she-satyr, and or another to pitch up her tent. Cast down her gauntlet and proclaim thee coward for not stabbing her when she gave thee the most plain and apparent lie.
Joculo, we are falling into their eyes.
They'll hardly see their way then, for we're shrewd motes. But all's one. I'll give occasional quarrel. Answer it as you can.
Jostles Julio.
Your reason, sir?
To make you recoil, or with the soldier to fall off. It's your country manners to connive a leader, being open or before present service as I am.
Pardon me, sir, I did not see your charge. Would I had never seen her, for her eye hath set my thoughts in a strange mutiny.
What? In love, Julio?
Oh, No prince loves in me. I like a slave in your love's tyranny.
Madam, your brother.
Slave to all slaves be he that snares his eye in a weak siren's cobweb flattery.
God save fair sweet.
Amen, from such as you.
You had said for such had your tongue gone true.
Why then belike I lie?
I would you did within my curtains.
Marry, love forbid.
And nay, love is willing, for he cries, let's go.
Then love hath two tongues, for he tells me no. So pray, let's part.
What, in our lips not meet?
Now fie upon it, like broommen in the street. You're a young wooer, or else much too rude to show this kindness for a multitude. But by the blush that colours o'er your face, you would scarce do it in a more private place.
This same strange thing in the likeness of a woman, tales of so much wit. Though I not love her sex, I'll arm my thoughts to crack a jest with her. What, gavelled, Julio?
No, but run a land. Is your wit's shipping any better manned?
Yes. Will you board it?
No, I dare not venture.
Make but a shot in jest, and you may enter.
You are a scholar?
I've seen some schools.
You came not o'er in the last fleet of fools?
You took my room up.
I pray, take it again. We'll have no women fools sail amongst men.
Your wit's most currish.
Why, it bites not you. It feeds on fool's flesh. So, wise men, adieu.
Please you accept the curtsy of the town.
I need not. I have curtsies of mine own. There's one for you.
How chance your wit's so free?
Only to outgo laddish company.
Here are none such.
Take heed, for if you tire, she'll keep her pace and leave you in the mire.
A woman's feature, but a scholar's tongue in quick discourse. Philosophers ne'er wondered more at the strange conception of the winds than I admire how she attained this wit. Did not true learning make the fowl divine? She has spoke enough to make me convertine.
My loves are found in wit, but your reply. A short-lived accent, either no or I.
I am not too severe, nor yet so kind to fall for every idle puff of wind. But farewell. I'll take counsel of my pillow. Pity fresh youth should wither in green willow.
Appoint the place, sweet. I'll not miss mine hour.
At the Three Fools.
I'll meet.
And make up for.
Sweet words, kind looks. What? And a parting kiss? Words, looks, and lips cry all, the wench is his. I am possessed. Devil love persuades my mind that if to him, to me she'll prove more kind.
Exeunt Emilia and Joculo.
What's Julio made of? Hadst thou sense, or hadst thou soul or sense, thou wouldst not prentice thy affections, nor tie thy fortunes to a stranger's love.
A little liking, my lord, a jerk, a trick or two, but no pure love, I protest. Be impartial, cast off the furred gown of hate, and speak out of the naked doublet and host of judgment. Is she not worthy to be beloved? Hey, might not she and I live parting well together?
Yea, if to live in bondage be no hell, I think you two might do exceeding well.
Well, my lord, because I'll be no example of stuff, well, I'll break off our meeting at the Three Fools and send for her to court, where I'll put all my love into one quart of Maligo and your melancholy humor into another. And he hath done last, shall for penance give her a kick at the lips, and a pipe of tobacco. Be my witness, that's all the love I bear.
Well, Julio, howe'er you juggle, if you do agree, you must be pleased to wear the keeper's fee.
And exeunt. We're going a bit Star Wars here. The princess. And who'd have thought it? Didn't think that's where the story was going. End of the act. There might be some music. Aliki, do you want to dive in here?
That was such a fun little exchange, and I'm really enjoying the energy that Emilia brings to the play. I'm not sure how seriously we're supposed to take Julio's affections, but Polymetes, I don't know, I guess he's never met a woman before, or at least not one who's reasonably clever. I'll ignore the shades of Star Wars and let you all deal with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, presumably, maybe I'm assuming Polymetes has met his sister before, but
no, she says she was taken away as a baby and raised by nuns. So how she learned to flirt / put off men like that, I do not know.
Oh, I don't know. I would have thought that there are some nuns out there who know how to do that basic distraction technique stuff. But yeah, it's just the way he described the scene earlier, you see. So I was assuming that, he's at least vaguely caught sight of, that particular incident. I was just going with maybe just was looking in a book all the time and he never actually looked up. Okay, it's okay. That's less awkward then, because it's not one of those awkward disguising issues that I just wasn't paying attention. That's fine, Sarah.
But I think she knows that he's her brother because Joculo says,
yes,
oh, it's your brother.
Yes, but she doesn't know he's keen because he's on the other side of the room going, hi. while Julio is doing all
the
shtick.
So, but I'm not entirely sure how Joculo knew that he was her brother. Maybe I'm not supposed to think of that. I don't know. It's like, because he said, oh, look, it's your brother. It's like, how would he know?
Clothing.
His costume.
Yeah.
He's got it written on his forehead.
Yeah.
Got a t-shirt. Like, yeah.
He'd seen the dispatches. I don't know. Eric.
Yeah, no, I just like that. Well, because obviously, is it Julio? I like to think that Julio or Julio, whatever. I like to think that he thinks he's like a Latin lover, sort of. I mean, not Latin as in Latin. I mean, like, Italian or Spanish. Just like sort of, yeah, because he clearly thinks he's very charming, but he's not. Like, he's basically, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what he's doing there. He's just like, oh yeah, I'm totally just messing with her, but I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting within the context of a boys' company. You can really see that working well, actually, because it would add an extra sort of layer of bless to the proceedings, which is quite nice. I mean, there's also the nature of Emilia's relationship with Joculo, who they've clearly got some bantering vibe going on there that. She's perfectly capable of dealing with, and there's I mean, you were talking about the nuns. I suspect if he's been about quite a lot, then maybe she has learnt certain bantering from him, and because there's no phase to any of that. It's just like, oh yes, you're doing those terrible words. I mean, she does a terrible pun at the very beginning. I mean, goodness sake, it's absolutely awful. Terrible wordplay. But there's a lot of it, so it doesn't matter, and that's fine. Okay, let's dive into Act 2 and see where this is all going, because there's some plot occurring in Act 2. Act 2, Scene 1, enter Count Lurdo. Boo, hiss, and Adam.
I do not love to double with a woman if my friend, much less with you, my most upright and straight count, my young lord, as I told you, is turned absolute prodigal.
How prodigal?
Marry, thus prodigal. To frequent ordinaries is his ordinary practice, rubs out whole weeks together in bowling alleys, bawdies away his pocket full of French crowns in a morning, and counts it a pretty sport to procure heat.
Thou tell'st me wonders. He that but last day was never seen to walk without a book writ against pleasure, and make bitter jests of honest recreation turned dissolute. See no reason for't. The law, and I tell you plainly, Adam, think you lie.
Think as you will, sir. There's not a trick used in the town that deserves damnation, but he desires to deal in it. 'Tis pity a was not made a tradesman. He loves to follow his occupation a life, and that which makes him doubt most, he is in love with the Indian punk tobacco.
Punk! How the fool that doth not know it slanders a leaf, nicknames a stranger herb.
No herb of grace, I hope, sir.
Nor good thrift, neither. Yet there's one dunce, a kind of plodding poet, swears 'twas not in the first creation, because he finds no ballad argument to prove old Adam a tobacconist.
I think none of the name loves it. I have heard old Adam was an honest man and a good gardener, loved lettuce well, salads and cabbage reasonable well, yet no tobacco. Again, Adam Bell as a substantial outlaw and passing good archer, yet no tobacconist. Further, Diogenes, whose proper name might be Adam for aught I know, loves garrets well, league porridge parting well, yet no tobacco. To conclude, my great-grandfather's grandfather's father and myself, all gardeners, yet could not abide this chimney sweeper tobacco.
They did not. Take me with you. What's the cause? They were all plain folks and did not know the laws.
They were plain indeed, and thereof grew the proverb, plain dealing is a jewel.
But he that useth it shall die a beggar.
That addition was made by some lawyer or poet, to avoid which they cannot induce plain dealing, should have a hand in any of these actions.
Touch no man's function. There are jerks and tricks. Spurn not the law, for if you do it, kicks.
So will a spurred gourd laid, sir. But to all these misdemeanours, maintains a private punk, one Tristella, that he had in a way of reversion from Julio, a twinger, a mere horse leech, one that will suck out the brains of his treasury and make a mere skin of his wealth. I, out of my love, reprehended his error, and he, in a fury, kicked me out of doors and discharged me of his service.
I like not this. 'Tis neither right nor straight, done with no law trick nor good conceit. But here he comes.
Enter Polymetes and Emilia.
With autumn in his bosom. Pray God she shake not down his leaves and leave him to make the Duke his father a bald reckoning.
Peace, and observe.
Though I be a stranger to you, yet am I well acquainted with your humour. A lady cannot live about the court without the envy of your epigrams. If she be pleasant, she is counted light. If ruddy, painted. If her ruffs be thick, they ask much poking.
Trust me, love hath killed that wormwood humor. Bring the authority of one true tongue to prove my poesy. Ever wronged woman.
And you'll do it again.
That's a good wench.
I pray, who ought that pen that in a hammering iambic vein glanced at Emilia's loose and gaudy train, and broke broad jests upon her narrow heel, poked her ribatos and surveyed her steel, tied her fringed garters, bought her words by weight?
Still good in law and an upright conceit.
Do not you know that man?
Suppose I do.
You did but flout them, and you'll flout me too. You wondered not Cornelia, being so fair, would be beholding to her laundress hair.
I know not this.
True, nor that Florimel became a page's habit passing well, used single rapier, took the rouse, and swore of all land beasts she could not brook the boar. Nor that Count Lurdo, coming to a fray, thought not the worth of one poor hair away.
More than his own.
That left comes near to me. 'Tis outgrown now, a once authority.
Nor that Melina, whom your muse renowns, wore out as many suitors as new gowns, and the same day that she was married, upon her fingers wore her maidenhead in likeness of a diamond.
Indeed, 'twas fed that for a ring Melina sold her head.
but you're all quits.
They are body mates. Such lawyers, too, indeed, abuse all states.
Poets are wanton, and no doubt enjoy their fair Corinnae, though perhaps less coy.
Suppose some do.
Each one in this agrees to scandalous.
And talk of lawyers' fees.
Grant me but love, and with my utmost power I will defend your sex's stainless honor, and with my pen dipped in the juice of gall be his sole terror that hereafter shall cast at honor's garments or aspire to name your sex with an unhallowed fire.
I take your word.
Enter Julio.
Then seal it with a kiss.
That kiss, my lord, deserves an epigram.
Sit down, good uncle.
An unbidden guest should bring a stool along.
A woman's jest.
You mean a lie, for women used to lie.
But not like scholars by authority.
Yet they may produce lying authority, and so cannot poets.
Nor lawyers neither.
Are you a lawyer?
If it, madam, he hath sit on the skirts of law any time this 30 years.
Then he should be a good trencher man by his profession.
Your reason, Adam.
I knew one of that faculty in one term eat up a whole town, church, steeple, and all.
I wonder the bells rung not at his belly.
No, sir, he sold them to buy his wife a taffety gown and himself a velvet jacket.
What a proud lack was that! Though I wonder at lawyers for one thing. Many of them used to take their fees aforehand.
For a twofold policy. One is they were commonly greedy. The other, for fear if their clients follow their counsel long, they will not be worth a fee.
It is well said, lady. You do well to jest with an old man.
Says true, for if you should jest too much with a young man, it might prove earnest, and so the fruits of your jest make you both ashamed on it.
Well said, Adam. But leaving at full jest, uncle, what earnest business brought you hither?
Your honour's sudden metamorphosis, told by your trusty servant and confirmed by public rumour.
Why, what says goody Fame and my trusty servant?
This is the worst, my lord, that you expend your treasure on that lady's maintenance.
What say I do? What has the worm-eaten bawd Fame, or e'er a pander-like fool else, to do with it? Give her maintenance? Why, she is of my near affinity. Should I see my she affinity go into tatters? I allow my servant rags. I were worse than a Jew if I should allow my she affinity to go naked.
Law takes your part, and if your purse grows short, rather than spend the public treasury, I'll lend your grace a brace of £1,000, provided this, that as our bookmen write, I have security.
A lawyer, right.
Security. Leases and old rents, castles and townships, able men, good security. Towns are no starters. They'll hold out wind and weather.
I crave no more. Let me have pawns and use.
How? Lords turn usurers. Those that should punish brokerage deal upon pawns. If it were once his own, he'd lend him money on his dukedom's crown.
But faith, uncle, tell me, what think you of this lady? Would she not make a pretty pert duchess?
She's fair, nor do I discommend your choice. I wish her yours, a private friend or so. I know mad jerks, and know that law allows princes their private pleasures, and myself will do my best to gain your honour's love. I will not absolutely say there are, but there may be, if your honour please, cellars and vaults, which from your private garden may underground lead to your bedchamber, whither I won't name myself, but some close friend may unsuspected bring your beauteous lady.
Lord, what a broking advocate is this! He was some squire's scrivener, and hath scrapped gentility out of attorney's fees. His bastard actions prove him such a one. For true worth scorns to turn chameleon.
Madam, my uncle, out of tender love, better to shun all scandalous suspect that might attend on our unsuiting loves, will lodge you at his house, whither at times
Your grace may have access.
Is so indeed.
Is there a back way?
And a private door, a secret vault, and 20-odd tricks more.
A stove?
And arbors with sweet violet beds that have been pressed to death with maidenheads, where you may sport and breathe and take a rouse.
Purdy, this lawyer keeps a bawdy house. I shall be ready to deceive you all. My lord, your law plot's most judicial.
And we're just going to pause. It's a long scene. There is no break. This is where the structure of a boys' playhouse is really important to the play, because there would have been a relatively short interval between Act 1 and Act 2, and time has moved on slightly since. Since there is a definite something has occurred in time, because Polymetes has set up and has changed his public persona into something of a tearaway around town. He's smoking tobacco. Oh my God! Which is, this is the time of history where there's so many tobacco references in plays. I mean, some plays go very hard against them, and some plays are positively tobacco advertising lobby. And it really does flit around. But then we're introduced to Polymetes and setting up Emilia and in this setup here, and going to Lurdo, who has the situation to allow these things to happen. Lurdo has fingers in many pies by the looks of things. There's again lots of really good banter and back and forth and play and asides. It's full of asides that aren't fully marked in the script that we've got here, but there's life to what's going on here. And then there's this very, very noticeable bit when it just says, "And now can we get back to the plot? You've had your fun, but we need to move the plot along after 5 minutes of this. Let's go on with the setup." And Purdy, this lawyer, keeps a bawdy house. Thoughts from the room before we continue, Alan?
Yeah, there was one thing that was being debated in the chat, which was the description of Emilia as my sheer affinity. Now, that seems an interesting circumlocution for a female relative.
right.
I don't think it's got any further context or implication than that, but it's not a usage I've come across before.
Oh.
No, and in this context, it's doing a lot of work because we assume that Polymetes still doesn't know that it's his sister. So it's an odd usage. Lynn.
And she knows who he is, and she's allowing him to court her. Like, why?
Yeah. I'm very confused as to the motivations for why any of this is happening. I know why some of the people are doing it, but I'm not sure what's going on there. Aliki.
She said something about testing her brother when she arrived, and I think that's something to do with it. I'm not sure what she expects to gain from it.
Yeah, what's a passing score on that test?
I mean, presumably not trying to seduce an unmarried girl. Presumably.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
Yeah, passing would be saying no, it's marriage or nothing.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Yeah, she's maybe like testing him to see how virtuous he is. Because I mean, him being the Duke's son, he's obviously meant to be, born with all the noble manly virtues, and also, because he was a scholar, and I mean, sort of, I kind of got the impression, although I can't remember the lines now, that he kind of shunned love up until this point. So, she's maybe testing him just to see how virtuous are you in this regard. What I find really interesting, though, it's not unusual for the time, but I think you could do something with it in terms of a modern staging, is the fact that everybody assumes, I'm taking Adam as the sort of everyman figure here. Everyone kind of assumes that because he's been seen in company with this woman, and they've done a lot of talking together, and there's a lot of witty banter flowing backwards and forwards between them. Oh, she must be his whore. Obviously, she's clearly a bore. A man and a woman actually talking like equals. Oh, well, she can't possibly be, some sort of virtuous by the standard of the time woman. She has to be his mistress because, yeah, that's what women who talk, that's what they are. Women who are clever, that's what they are always. And it's just really, I find that it's kind of fun. It's like, on one level, it's maybe kind of, these characters are sort of, fortifying the established ideas of the time, but at the same time, there is a lot of satire there, and the play is poking fun at those established ideas, and I think you could have a lot of fun with that in a contemporary production.
Yeah, we've got stuff that again. Who thought this was where Act 2 was going to go when they watched Act 1? I mean, this is what's really interesting about this. That it is bringing the changes. I'm honestly, I'm not convinced about why Emilia's doing anything except plot. I'm just going, this is what the play's supposed to be doing here. We need to probably find a way of making that land better, because I can understand maybe she wants to be kept in hiding until she can go to Dar when her father comes back, but there are ways to go into hiding, and maybe this is and maybe she gets drawn into this other thing, so affronted by Lurdo that she wants to see how far she can. I feel that there's more actually about Lurdo being the dodgy one here than necessarily about Polymetes in that sense. Anyway, let's find out, because we're still mid-scene. Let's finish the act. And at this moment, enter the aforementioned many, many times, the Countess.
But who comes here? One of your cast clients?
Odds me, the Countess.
Mum, I cannot stay. There's a cloud rising, drives my son away.
Is this your wife?
Madam, 'tis she that was.
That was and is not. How comes that to pass?
I cannot tell. God and his conscience knows.
And the world sees Colossus on my brows, Hercules pillars. Here's none ultra writ.
Not in brass characters.
Oh, no homes more fit.
Hath not the law divorced and made a bar twixt our affections? Wert not thou content to take a pension?
Which you still detain.
Good wit, law tricks and firm. You may complain.
Complain I do. I kneel before the throne and sue for justice, but can purchase none. Complain I do. Cousin?
Oh, away.
Oh, as you are a prince and you a virgin?
I was one long since. This is no place for passion. Dry your eyes.
Grief nails me to the ground. I cannot rise. I'll grow immodest. Justice is exiled, and so shall duty. Patience turn wild.
Come, leave the bedlam.
Do for wit and no law know she's a fool.
A couple, quoth Jackdaw.
Madam.
Who calls?
Oh, sorry, just to clarify, everybody exits at this point, apart from Horatio, who entered from a distance, and the Countess.
Madam.
Who calls?
Madam.
Horatio.
In passion. Lady?
Discontent or so?
Be not. Be counselled. Do not let despair. Like the rank canker bred by sultry air, eat this young rose of beauty in the bud, but in the April sun of youthful blood. Let the sweet blossom rise, ripen, thrive and grow to those full joys which none but lovers know.
Talks idly. tell me I'm fair, lovely, and young?
You are, by love you are, not fair, you are. Leander's paramour, compared with you, was a swarth blackamoor. Your hair is softer than the Colchian fleece, your well-lined features nature's masterpiece, your eyes, two diamonds set in purer mould than rocks of coral or the Indian gold. In thy smooth chin there is an ivory pit, where blushing Venus and young Cupid sit, feathering of gold shafts the wounding heads, made of thy amber tresses finest threads.
You will not buy me sure, you praise me so.
Yet fair, I'll bid fair for you ere I go.
He that bids fair for me deceives his eye.
By heaven, a doth not.
Enter Horatio's page, though possibly irrelevantly.
Wilful perjury? What means all this?
This my discourse intends. Were husbands saints, some wise would have close friends.
Some bad, perhaps, but
Husbands but fought, true, woot? Prithee, woot thou?
what?
Us heartlings do.
Do what?
Love's tricks quickly, would thou prithee?
No, I prize my credit.
Credit? Life a man. What talks of credit? Art not known a strumpet?
You do me wrong.
Damnation! What a gloss this gilded copper, diamond of glass! What strange shoe it makes! I'll give you a colorous. Your face were ne'er worse painted than I'll paint your wainscot credit. You are a private bit kept for some great maid dives. Red-hot scandals suck the native colour of your soul, as it hath scorched thy credit. Shrivelled board, sponge, lemon pill, are more irrelishable than o'er-dried stockfish. Fie!
On thy shame.
Thy husband, oh, thy husband, bow-legged fame, death, I shall hate thee.
Oh, for honour? Do.
Swear thou art my strumpet.
I'll endure that too.
Shalt not deny it, heart canst not.
Yes, I can.
Do it for thy life, thy soul, base courtesan.
And exit the charming Horatio.
Farewell, if friendship be at such a rate. Before I'll purchase it, I'll live still in hate.
What a new fashion! A lady poor, beautiful, and chaste? Clean from the bias of custom. To be poor painted and proud is as common in Genoa as felt and feather in the fortunate hand, but chaste and poor? As singular and rare as conscience with the Anabaptist.
Come hither, boy. Didst never owe me service?
Yes, madam, more than ever I paid you honestly, and were I not my master.
Thy master? Who?
Horatio, he that puts chastity to the quick and honour to the stab. But I'll show him the nature of a right Frenchman, deny him homage, forswear allegiance, and come behindhand in cash keeping, and with his own purse maintain you against him.
Thy purpose? Briefly.
In bold sentences, your noted wrongs are pitied.
Pitied? By whom?
By me. Lodgings prepared and diet, which I humbly tender your honour as first payment of the ancient debt my service owes to you.
But is the lodging private?
But mine own mother's, and though I say it, she keeps an honest house, though my father be a citizen.
Of what profession?
Neither fool nor physician, but an ingenious apothecary.
And what resort?
Very civil and most quiet resort. Patients, the house is set round with patients twice or thrice a day, and because they'll be sure not to want drink, everyone brings his own water in a urinal with him.
Does use physic too? That's beyond his warrant.
Oh, Lord, madam, better men than he strain courtesy with their warrants in this age. Besides, You being musical shall be much content, for my mother lodges 3 or 4 knights and ladies' daughters that practice music and needlework, and will no doubt be exceeding proud of your company. Will it please you walk?
Thou art the star by whom my fate is led. My shame's so public, I'd fain hide my head.
And exit. I like this page. It's like we had Horatio. It's like we've got to have a counterbalancing force in this scene of Horatio, who just does that thing of going, I love you, go away. I hate you, I never wanted you, really, and it's just terrible yikes moments as well. We've had a bit of anti-Semitism. We've also got some racism, black beauty standard in place there as well. But they are thankfully trimmable things. Lynn.
Yeah, Horatio. It's like the way men behave on the internet is yeah, they hop into a woman's like messages and say, "Oh, you're cute, let's be friends." And she's like, I'm not really prepared for a relationship. Oh yeah, ugly whore.
Yep. It's not new. It's not new, internet. You're just reframed. Aliki.
Nice little bit of plot there from the page. We save the Countess, and I think that sets up kind of, well, I have my guesses about what's going to turn out to be the case with the Countess. But I think she has to be proven honest at the end.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, and I just love the way that because the servants know everything. This is the thing about servants. So that we all know this is wrong, and I haven't got much, but you can stay at ours. And it's really sweet. And what I like about this is the play is playing some really horrible things, but it's doing it with intent, and it's doing it to move things along, and then it plays this card back. So the playwright is really ringing the changes here, Sarah.
Yeah, and it's doing some really nice things with the concept of nobility, because really, with the exception perhaps of the Duke, who we met once very briefly at the beginning of Act 1, but I mean he's disappeared now. All the noble men are fairly dodgy to one degree or another. I mean, it's saying something that what's his face, Poly thingamabob, Polymetes is actually the least nefarious one among them, and he's trying to seduce his sister, but okay, he doesn't know, so that kind of lets him off. But he's still like, he's a bit of a, I won't use that word, but like he's not great, and then it kind of goes down from there. Lurdo's just so awful, and Horatio's disgusting, and then but the women are showing a great amount of nobility, and also the page, so you've got this working class servant who is just inherently noble because he's doing the right thing, and I love the fact that he says, oh yeah, I'll use the wages that he pays me to help you. I mean, that's just great. So this play is kind of, it seems to me to be just like, playing a trick on the audience and messing around with all the audience's established ideas. And again, I said it already, but I think this would work really well for a contemporary audience, because it's fun.
Yeah, and for all the this supposedly this page in Genoa or whatever, he's clearly a Londoner, isn't he? I'm sort of thinking, the way these things, sometimes frame. And okay, some of the other servants are doing some dodgy banter, but their hearts are all so far very much in the right place. They're sort of they're playing around and being jocular, but they are sort of also being very helpful. The Joculo did assist the escape, and for all some of his terrible dialogue, there's heart there. Lynn, then Eric, then we will move into Act 3.
Yeah, I am enjoying the kind of subversiveness that Sarah is pointing out, that the people with all the prestige and power are rotten human beings, and the the people with less social juice, servants and women, have a kind of decency to them that the people with power lack. So I maybe that just sort of makes it more interesting. It's kind of it's very much a classic structure, but yeah, I kind of enjoyed that subversiveness. And I'm wondering, on a rather different topic, I mean, Emilia says Polymetes is her brother, and it's like I was put out to nurse with relatives or whatever, so they've never seen me since I was an infant, so they won't know me. But on the other hand, this is also, the play was written in the era more or less of A King and No King and Mother Bombi, which both have a brother and sister in love subplot, and it turns out no, they're not related, and so they can get married. So I'm wondering if that's how that's going to shake out. Turns out Emilia's not his sister.
Ooh, possibilities. Eric.
Yeah, about the page and the Countess, I feel like, I mean, because we've seen sort of characters swearing that they love someone and then becoming really, really horrible. I couldn't help but be cynical about the page when we actually met him or her in this case. Yeah, I don't know. It just like, and I also have to say that I did enjoy the line about like, oh yeah, they'll be sure not to want drink. Everyone brings his own water. In the urinal with him. That was a good line.
Yes, in this context, I mean, it's a bottle of some description, though odds on they are bringing probably a sample. But it's possible that it's an entirely non-joke on that set level, but I think it probably is. Anyway. We will move into Act 3. We're not going to finish Act 3. We're going to do one scene in Act 3. It's reasonably long, but we'll let it run. Act 3, Scene 1. Enter Count Lurdo and new character, Winifred.
Parent-in-law, and how encountered you?
I tell you, my good lord, I thank my bringing up I can talk. I used not to have my tongue to seek when it should pleasure any man, especially my good lord. I told her what a credit it was to have a man of great credit, and that, which is more, a skilful lawyer that can stand out in her case at a deadlift, and one that, if need were, could make a crazy action found. I put in her mind what it was to have such a one to her sweetheart.
Thou speakst but right, for I am so indeed.
You are. I urged it, and she confessed to me that the very first night she saw you, she dreamt on it, and wished you in her bed, and her bed in the midst of the river.
How, in the river?
Yes, so, sooth.
In the middle of the tide?
Yes, in her dream.
Good. But she doth love me.
Believe it, my lord, she doth. Marry, you must think I drew her, and wrought her, till I made her as pliant and tractable as wax, marry, with all she is, as constant as Lucretia, and I will not for £1,000 till I'll hath the law of her side.
I found her meaning. First I'll go my nephew.
Her intent right. She intends to make a gull of the prince and an absolute goose of you.
Still good in law. I'll fetch him o'er of all, get all, purse all, and be possessed of all, and then conclude the match. Marry at least. When, can you tell? I'll use her as a hand to pick the prince's coffers, and for reward to prison marry her. For tricks can do it. The world's squint-eyed and dares not pry into our actions. Here lies her walk. My lord, when she shall see youths leaden-footed in respect of me.
Play and dance. We haven't had a song yet, but I don't know if we get a song, but we at least get some music, and there's some dancing, to which enter Emilia.
Win, prithee give the fiddler a tester and send him packing. What a scraping the rogue keeps! Does think the count keeps a tavern or a bawdy house? My good lord, beseech your honour, pardon me.
No harm, sweet love. How dost thou like this caper?
Passing well, my lord. You never leave these coltish tricks. But to the matter, I sent you my resolution by your maid. Have you received it?
I have, and it holds current. Then tender me possession
Of what?
of thy chaste love.
Not too much asked for that. You have a wife.
I had one.
And still have.
Thy love shall quickly wed her to her grave. I ne'er did love her.
When she was a maid, you swore you did. How soon poor youths betrayed to helpless ruin. Do you love me?
If faith,
For how long?
till death.
Oh, deadly lie. I'll tell you just how long love's bred in the blood. Prospers as long as beauty's in the bud. When beauty withers, lustful love grows cold, and ere it be half ripe, 'tis rotten old. If you have me, you must not put on yellows. I'll have myself, my servant, and my fellows, my love, my liking, and a second me. I love to relish sweet variety. Your old wife moved you. I shall vex you more. Take coach with gallants even afore your door. Take rings, give bracelets woven of my hair, which, to spite you, my servant's arm shall wear. I'll in your presence sit upon his knee, exchanging kisses. If you speak to me, I'll pout in scorn, cry mew, and look aside. At which, if you but frown, I'll roundly chide. I am not as I seem. Dissembling wit is my best means.
Square to my humour fit.
I was a beggar born.
And so was I.
Traded in lust and gainful brothelry.
The fitter for my turn. I was a man born to no hopes but a few shreds of wit. A grammar scholar, then a scrivener dealing for private use twixt man, and by close brokage set them at debate, incensed them unto law, which to maintain I lent them money upon lands and plate, after the rate of 7 score in the 100. Then did I learn to counterfeit men's hands, noblemen's arms, interline evidences, make false conveyances, yet with a trick. Close and cocksure I coney catch the world. Having scraped pretty wealth, I fell in league with my first wife, and though I said myself, she had good doings, her back comings in and private goings out raised me aloft. I followed cases of the law abroad, and she was merry with her friends at home.
Did you ne'er take her kissing?
20 times.
Were you not jealous?
For nothing less.
Yet saw her kiss with strangers.
Kiss and play.
And were you a cuckold?
Cuckold by this light.
What, a whittle?
And a whittle too.
And knew it?
And newt.
And suffered it?
I did. It went attired in gold. The golden crest is a brave fashion, and accounted best.
Enter Winifred.
Madam, my lord,
What news?
the prince,
The prince?
and Julio.
Which way?
Where?
From thence?
That way, the vault, from thence, the private door. As I stood sentinel at the further end of the vault, they, being unacquainted with the turnings, came groping and feeling as commonly men will do, especially in a strange place. And as I am a true sinner, had I not spied the diamond on his finger, twin to this my conscience, they had been upon me in the dark ere I had been aware of them.
The prince.
And Julio.
Quick, away.
What plot?
Behind the arras. Escape behind the arras.
Behind the arras?
Close, cocksure. Be wise. They only thrive that best contemporize.
Enter Polymetes and Julio.
A rare vault by this light, and never devised without the advice of a grand jury of bawds. A word with your lips, Tris?
A God mend me, Prince, you smell bawdy.
Since I came into thy company, Win. And how is't, Tris? For God, a pretty lodging?
And very fair hangings.
Passing good workmanship. What story is this, Tris?
Why, my lord, the poetical fiction of Venus kissing Adonis in the violet bed.
For God, it is true, and mark where the cuckoldy knave Vulcan stands sneaking behind the brake bush to watch him.
A pretty conceit. Julio, dost see Vulcan with the horning parenthesis in his forehead? I hit indirectly upon the least pap of the at 3 passes, 400 crown.
Not for 100.
Is to match.
This done. Where will you take your stand?
Here, anywhere. Heart, has the heiress an ague? It trembles so.
No, Vulcan's fearful.
And with a fear it comes. Have at thee, cuckold.
Ah!
Hark, the heiress is in labor.
Mass, I heard something groan.
I'll be the midwife and help to deliver it.
Sweet prince,
Hark, wench, I smell boar's grease.
will you but hear me?
No excuse. What trick?
And she whispers to him.
How? But a picture. I'll try that presently.
If you love me, disfigure it not. I esteem it only for the lively workmanship.
Then let me have a fight on it.
Upon condition you'll neither deface it with weapon nor soil it with your breath.
On my virginity's maiden head, we will not discover Lurdo behind the arras?
Heart the devil, your uncle.
Oh, forbear, for God. Part good workman indeed.
Mark but the glance of his eye.
The hanging of his nether lip.
The blush of his cheek.
The curl of his hair.
The pit of a chin.
What a smooth hand a hath.
Long fingers like a lady.
Not so much but a seal ring.
Arms and all, viz. A tame gudgeon.
And the fool swallows it rarely in you, Markin.
Is the numb ass insensible to scoffs? I'll touch him nearer yet. Mine eye deceives me, and this be not Count Lurdo's counterfeit.
You may know that soon, my lord.
As how?
If it be his, it hath a gout in the left foot.
The very same. The shoe is cut and all. Farewell, Tris. And yet I'll startle him a little better for we leave him. For God, 'tis so like him, I doubt whether it be the shadow or his substance.
A block.
A shadow.
A mere senseless stone.
Then 'tis a counterfeit.
An absolute counterfeit. What do you mean?
Marry, many counterfeits walk in the likeness of good money, and so may this do, which to prevent, I'll nail him to a post, for fear a pass current on your lips in my absence, and so deceive me.
I'll fear I shall not. A gentle prince, be short. Length kills the heart of the most feeling sport.
Well, maiden, I am content. This jest shall reprieve your head for this once, but beware of the next encounter. Come, Ariadne's clue, will you unwind and light us through the vault of darkness? And there's your Nollum.
Thank you, my lord. And your business stand this way at midnight. I'll let you in by this token. When you come again, bring the lady a diamond, or some pretty and foolish stone, for I can tell you these same paltry stones are in high request amongst ladies, especially such old mousers as I have been in my time. And as I say, when you come, be not ashamed to knock, and, if I come not, knock lustily and again, and never give over knocking till you hear my hem. Did you never know Wind's hem?
Never.
Why, hast thou a private hen?
Have I? I'faith, sir, I. Few gallants i' the town that are of any standing at all, but are acquainted with my hen. But come close, my lord, close, and be sure the next time you come, you do not forget to knock lustily.
And they exit, leaving Lurdo and Emilia.
My lord.
My love, my life. Oh, thou art made of the soul of wit, and thy conceits of the best fashion.
Did you taste the jest?
Divinely, oh, divinely, tart and quick, pleasing, yet not tedious, I was wrapped.
In a knave's skin.
My fences were entranced.
Into a fool's paradise.
Oh, my sweet phoenix, out of thy ashes.
Is your love so hot you mean to burn me?
Oh, it honeyed me, and then their numbness. Didst thou ever read of any lawyer came to be a duke?
Never. But I have heard of a cuckold that was an usurper.
Why, such a one would I be.
What, a cuckold?
Yes, and a usurper too.
So you are, for you lawyers usurp more crowns than half a country.
Ulysses, Tully, lawyers, but no dukes.
Menelaus and Vulcan were cuckolds, but no lawyers.
For me 'tis true, but now I do remember, but not to that purpose.
The most lustful goats wear gilded horns and go in velvet coats.
And enter Winifred.
What news, Win?
Faith, ordinary household news. Yonder's a well-faced gentleman. Craves a maid change a word with you.
His name?
Horatio.
Leave us to confer.
And exit, both leaving Lurdo.
My trusty friends, the soul's high treasurer.
Enter Horatio.
In dumps, Horatio. What? My second self, clouded with passion.
Oh, my honoured lord, our souls and our affections are made all of one fashion. No, the slightest wrong that fears the reputation of my friend stabs daggers to my heart.
I know it true, and I can prove our loves are twins. But to the wrong, dares any idle tongue bark at our greatness?
Yes,
Their names?
your wife.
My wife? The manner?
Amongst her lustful maids, she shames not to give out that by her greatness, knowledge, credit, and friends in the highest place, you have divorced her without due desert.
We must demur of this. I'll have a trick by way of habeas corpus to remove this talking gossip. Come, Horatio, some project? What course for her remove?
I cannot counsel, but for God, my lord, my lodgings mightily annoyed with rats that eat my papers and deface my books. How should I rid them?
Easily poison them. And well remembered, this, the rat, my wife, that eats and tears the leaves of my repute, shall taste like speeding physic. In thine ear, canst temper poison?
Yes,
And kill a rat?
that she shall never swell on it.
For that. This she-rat is a devil.
A limb of Satan,
Envy.
destruction,
Malice.
ratsbane do't.
Ere my disgrace get age, rare tricks, and I will fool the world. Woot do't.
The rat shall die.
And exeunt generally midway through Act 3, all together now. Who'd have thought it? It really is every scene. It's like you come in at the beginning of the scene, you go, where's it going to be at the end? And then it sort of goes somewhere you're sort of expecting, and then it sort of doesn't. And it's just like, what? Lynn.
Yeah, Horatio and Lurdo are just wrong'uns. They're just that, and you know, and this is just got to be parody because, I mean, not only are they terrible people, they're not very smart. I mean, if you divorce your wife and then refuse to pay her maintenance, just because you're a cheapskate,
And then your former wife is telling everyone he had no cause and he's basically abandoned me. Yeah, the thing to do is to poison her. That won't arouse suspicion at all. Like, yeah, that'll save your reputation. If your wife, whom you've put off and not maintained according to the traditions of your culture, dies suddenly, yep, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, this play is throwing lots of things at us. There's parody of all sorts of things flying around here. He said, holding a wooden object in his hand. So there's an awful lot of stuff this scene is doing. I want to actually just talk about this sodding Aris, because what are they? Do they actually ever? I assume they don't discover him, but they keep talking about elements of his body. So are they just hitting different parts? What are they doing there? Aliki, then Sarah, then Eric.
I think they do discover them, and implausibly, Emilia persuades them that it's a statue of him.
So he's there doing a pose, and they're poking different parts of him. That seems very plausible to me. I mean, there are no stage directions telling us this. This is why I asked the question, because I was wondering whether they would, because it did seem they have to see him, but he has to be pretending not to be able to say anything until after it, and they talk about the conceit, and stuff. So yeah, that seems to be where it's going. Sarah.
Okay, that is probably better than my theory. My theory was that they see the Aris trembling and guess that it's him.
Yes.
And they're actually looking at the picture of Vulcan and Venus and Adonis, and they're looking at the picture of on the wall, or on maybe it's even hung on the Aris. I don't know quite if that would work, but like, and they're they're insulting him, knowing that he's there and knowing that he can hear them. They're basically going, oh, look at Vulcan. Oh, he looks so much like Lurdo. Oh yeah, if he's got gout, then so they're just basically using the picture that she was talking about as an excuse to really, really insult him. And he's kind of like behind the Aris, like, and the Aris is kind of moving every time that they say something. But
because when they talk about gout in his left foot, if it's Vulcan, then that sort of works, doesn't it? Because of how they portray it. And of course, they're talking about Vulcan having horns and all the rest of it. So yeah, maybe there's that's the way the scene works. I mean, either way, you've got a lot of, and I also just think they should be tapping the thing as well. I mean, that's the thing. Is the Aris needs to be painted to look like it's, or depending on the time and money you're willing to spend on this Aris. If it was real, it'll be a proper thing, but otherwise it would just be painted. That they can sort of keep hitting him and because we have a bit of hitting at the beginning. I feel like that's there's. The thing is that this is loaded with comic potential in terms of business that you could do here. This is a framework to add lots of, and all this stuff about hem stuff is quite nice. Eric and then Lynn.
Yeah, I was thinking that it was like there was a scene in, I think it was Faudence and Lucrece, where you've got like they're trying to hit a bird with like a stone or something, and I think it was A and B trying to impress like one of the maids or something, and that's kind of what I was imagining. They're trying to hit him with like various things, projectiles, but I don't know if they were like literally doing that or just like sort of pretending and then just poking him.
Well, so for God, 'tis so like him, I doubt whether it be shadow or his substance, and it just feels like at that point that just feels punch. A block punch, a shadow punch, a mere senseless stone punch. Then 'tis a counterfeit punch. It feels like that every line potentially can be a different target, and it's just I mean, how much pain. Obviously that's easier to do if it is just an Aris you're hitting, because then all you have to do is do the reaction noises, occasionally pop your head out one side, that kind of thing.
Make a face.
So yeah, Lynn.
Yeah, but Polymetes is in on this joke. He knows because she whispers to him.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, that's Horatio behind there. I don't want him here, but that's who it is. So Horatio and Winifred and Polymetes and Emilia all know what's going on when they're insulting him, and maybe like sort of whopping the tapestry while they're at it.
I mean, but it could be that they've just discovered, because it does feel a bit like that, with that there's a discovery moment on my virginity's maidenhead. We will not discover Lurdo behind the arras. Heart the devil, your uncle. There seems to be a moment of seeing. So I'm Schrodinger's arras at the moment on this point.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced either way.
Yeah.
Down to the director and the production. Let's let the cast find what's funnier. What's the funny? Alan.
Yeah, I mean, one potential way is if they are whacking the arras, if it suddenly falls down and reveals Lurdo behind, sort of clutching bits of him that have been damaged.
Yes, especially if he's arranged himself in a really uncomfortable position when they pull the arras aside. Ah, shit! Always die in a comfortable position. Always get discovered behind an arras in a comfortable position. Okay. We are halfway through the play, and it is throwing some curveballs at us. It is throwing some really nice business. Every scene's got sort of plot moving on stuff, but also sort of vamping stuff as well. You know, good banter that is character work, that is, some of it's important, some of it isn't. So it gives us the option to contract the text if we decide bits of it we don't want. There's also a bit of room for expansion, especially as this is a boys' company play, so there's probably supposed to be more music in there. There is a bit of a musical gag when it's like, you know, I will woo her with music, and she just goes, "What the hell?" I mean, how bad a fiddle player is this guy? It's either he's actually unexpectedly good, or it's just, you know, can't play, just making a terrible noise. So, and as has been noted before we even started, that this isn't a massive cast play. This is quite small. That pleases me. It gets a bit more complicated later on. We will have the return of some characters, and it's not quite as compact as perhaps I'd like it. But there's some good stuff going on here, so I'm going to go to final thoughts. Sarah, you're waving, so you can do whatever thought you had and then move into final thoughts if you desire.
Yeah, it's nice and compact in terms of cast numbers. It's also quite short. I mean, in terms of we're halfway through it already. So this is eminently stageable, which is, yeah, exciting. And it's kind of, it's so far at least. I mean, yeah, we'd need to make the odd cut here and there, as you already mentioned. But I mean, it's kind of like, it's one so far at least. You could just kind of dish it up. It doesn't really require, it wouldn't require that much tweaking, I don't think. Which, I mean, I know you like the ones that are a challenge, Rob, but I'm thinking of it, you know, purely from a sort of, yeah, getting a production on stage. It's like, oh yeah, this would be really, so far at least, quite easy. Now, whether that will be the case after we get to the end of it, who knows, frankly, because, you know, it's already taken quite a few turns, and who would have thought it? Who knows where we'll end up? But I'm really enjoying it so far. And yeah, I like the games that it's playing. They seem to, I mean, you know, yeah, boys' companies plays, there's quite often parody, there's quite often satire, but this seems to be funneling into a particular type of parody and satire that would land very well with a modern audience. So yeah, I'd be really interested to see what happens. And
yes, are we invoking the curse of the final session here?
I am
almost
definitely.
Everything you've just said there.
Yeah, I am. So I've just got that out of the way. So yeah. You know.
Because of course it could all end really disappointingly, and elements of it probably will. We know this is the problem when you've got various comedy setups where in theory there are matches that are available, and inevitably some of those matches are probably going to end up being really awful at the end of the play. But if it plays that hand well, then maybe it will get away with it. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I must admit, I think part of the problem is we touched on earlier the fact that none of the characters really get named by each other. Working out who the places is who, I'm still struggling with in some cases.
Yes, we might need to add some names in.
I think a few names might make things easier to understand, particularly when you're talking about an audio, basically an audio version rather than staged one. Because I think you could do quite a lot with signifiers in costume. I mean, it is just shy of 17,000 words in total as a script. But quite a lot of it, I think, would run at a fair rattling pace. The last sequence was all basically one word comments from each person, which I think would almost machine gun out to give quite a lot of fun.
Yes, who's at the door? Someone's at the door. There's someone at the door. Oh, they're coming up. They're coming up the path. Yeah.
And I think the other thing is that it's remarkably sparse on descriptive stage directions, and I think there is an awful lot of opportunity there for business to be put in, which would probably make you could pitch your level as to whether it's semi-serious or you go full slapstick.
And when we talk about it as being 18,000 words or so, that's still a couple of hours. That's still chunky. So the cuts are an option here to also oomph it up a little bit. And there are some, apart from the occasional lines which are obviously going, but there are occasional bits where you're just going, well, maybe that needs a reworking here. Aliki, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's so many jokes that do land for a modern audience that we can afford to cut quite a few of the others if we want to, and not feel that we're stinting anyone. And I would really like to see it staged rather than audio, because as Alan says, there's so much potential for physical business, and you'd want to explore some of those scenes and get at what's going on. There were a few things we mentioned in the comments, like is Lurdo bald with all of those jokes about hairs, and what's going on with the arras and so on. And I think this would do very nicely.
Yeah, and what we do as a process, we endeavour to attach ourselves to all the mediums, but this is one, and I suspect it will get worse as we go into the second half, where the audio realm is not its most natural habitat, because there is potentially a lot more visual business that will be quite important to be able to see. Lynn, any final thoughts?
I don't really think it's born to be audio. And we would need to workshop some of the stuff. The bit with the guy behind the curtain, and that could be kind of fun to explore. Does he come out and pretend to be a statue, or are they just sort of whapping the thing? The other thing I was just thinking is that staging this, I think, would require a certain lightness of touch, because I don't think you want to wallow too deep into the ick. And there's plenty of ick. There's brother and sister incest implied. There's false pretenses divorce. There's an abandonment. There's planning planning poisoning. It's just like the men are kind of ick. And I mean, you don't want to downplay that too much, but you don't want that sort of, I'm leaving the theater feeling like I need a shower to dominate the experience too much.
Yes, it does seem that for all the potential darkness of the text, it generally is quite light, it has to be said. Yeah. We have had a lot of things in passing, and I don't think anyone... I think we come to the end of this scene going, they're going to poison the Countess. I don't think anyone's sitting here going, that's going to happen.
Like that's going to succeed. Like that's not.
I suspect plot device rather than actual jeopardy is the nature of what's going on there. But no, I think you're right, and this is a question of time. It's not like a Marston play, of something of a similar period, similar sort of area, where there's a real dark bitterness to this. I'm not detecting that at all. The satire is quite light. It is there, but they're not really wallowing in it, or in a way that Middleton will be doing as well. So yeah, it seems to be doing the same sort of things, but with a slightly different flick of the pen. Eric, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just refreshing to have female characters were actually like characters rather than like sort of stereotypes. Even
It's
though
been
I
a
have,
while.
yeah,
It's been a while. It's not been a good run.
yeah. Although I'm still trying to work out what I mean. Obviously, the Countess was only recently introduced, but I mean, I'm still trying to work out like what Emilia's motives are for what she's doing. And we're halfway through the play, which I feel like is a significant portion of the play. For us to be what's it called, like wondering what on earth she's doing. Whereas, you know, with Horatio and most of the male characters, you kind of know what they're doing. They're mostly drooling on the floor, among other things. Yeah. I'm yeah. I don't know if I have anything else intelligent or unintelligent to say. So
it's fine. We can keep our powder dry for the moment. Winifred, we haven't really talked about. I really liked Winifred as well. Another really nice servant character, and also a really good example of a character who doesn't actually necessarily talk to us very much, or doesn't have a huge amount of dialogue. That isn't sort of very active dialogue, shall we say? You know, it's very much pushing things along. But we know what she's done a little aside, just saying, I know whose side I'm on, and therefore she's delightful. I really liked Winifred, and what she's adding, and again, what all these servants are adding, and that really interests me actually. That the servants are really driving this, but not necessarily being big. And I just love that she's called Win. As well, which is, you know, it says Winifred in the stage directions, but I don't think her full name's been used particularly in the on stage at all. So that's nice. I like deft character work on that level. Even if you're not on for long, you've got something to play. Who have we got left? Francis. Francis, any final thoughts?
I'm muted. I was muted. It took me a while to get my bearings, but I'm enjoying it. I'm not having a problem with the names of the characters, but just keeping track of who's related to whom and who's married to whom. You know, I have to keep my wits about me there, and also. I would like some stage directions about location as well. Yeah, because when Emilia turned up for the first time, I assumed she was in foreign parts somewhere, but she wasn't. She was back at the location of the first scene. What else? Yeah, I like the female characters. They're very rich, I feel. What else? I also like the fact the play's quite tight. I haven't detected any of those comic interludes where the resident comic gets to do his usual shtick. And also I don't know where it's going, which is nice. So I'm looking forward to Thursday.
Yeah, so in that sense, that there are characters who may come on and that they may be doing banter and things, but they're doing it's character work.
Yeah,
and that's why it's funny. So even though there are bits that maybe you could say, well, we could cut that back or dispense with elements of it, it's not random comedy business. It's not random comedy servants. It is in service to the play,
exactly.
Which makes that much more satisfying. Okay, well, so far. Who'd have thought it? We seem to be enjoying this one. There's still time. We only have one more session on it. It's a relatively short play, and so we're packing it into 2 sessions. So the curse of the final session may or may not strike next time. Find out for the thrilling conclusion of Lord Tricks, or Who Would Have Thought It, where all that remains is thank all the wonderful readers for all the wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. The rat shall die.